Song Shuhang is an ugly boy sitting in his room in the university after getting a cold. While he sits in his room playing games, he begins to feel sleepy and suddenly gets a notification from someone called Lord Yellow Mountain. At this moment, he realizes that the person had sent him a friend request. Song accepts the request, and he also notices that the person has added him to a group chat named the 9 Provinces #1 group. But as he checks the group, he begins to sleep off as the drug he had taken is just having an effect on him. While Song was sleeping, the members of the group begins to discuss about the new member they had seen on the group, and they begin to ask themselves if the new member is a male or female. They'd also discuss about cultivations and how Song is likely to be from the eroded school. The next day, Song wakes up and decides to check the group he was added to, and he realizes that the people in the group were active. Then he sees that they have been discussing about what he thinks is weird, as they were talking about cultivation and all other things in a Chinese Tianxia. Song tells himself that he likes their discussion, but he begins to wonder who Lord Yellow Mountain is. A few days later, Song watches what is being discussed on the group, but he does not pay attention to it, because he thinks the people in the group are all delusional, but he did not leave the group chat. Later that night, Song watches a scary movie, but he finds it boring, and he goes to sleep. But a few minutes later, he wakes up suddenly after having a weird dream. Meanwhile, the members of the 9 Provinces group begins to discuss about how their new member is a female duelist, but another man replies them on the group and tells them that he has not seen his daughter, who is meant to be added in the group. The members of the group then realizes that there is a mistake, as they have mistakenly accepted an unknown person to their group. But while they discuss on who the person they added is, they begin to think that he might be a powerful Taoist. Lord Yellow Mountain sits in front of his laptop, and he begins to wonder what he would do, and he tells himself that he would not remove Song from the group chat, so as not to lose face in front of the other members of the group. He then decides to do a divination to know if it is not a coincidence for Song to be in their group, but after many attempts, he is not able to get an outcome. Lord Yellow Mountain begins to think about how he has not been able to make a clear divination, but he goes to the group and tells them that they have to leave Song in the group, as it was not a coincidence for him to be added in the group. But as one of the members of the group asks the Lord for his actual divination results, he avoids the answering the question and immediately goes offline. The next day, Song wakes up and begins to wonder why his health is reducing, but he tells himself that it would be because he has not been exercising, and that is why his immune system is weak. Song goes to the group, and he recounts how he is able to know some of the members of the group and how they often come online, but he tells himself that most of them are old men who have become delusional due to what they have watched growing up. He recounts how they do talk about mystical realms and adventures, as if it is all real. Then he decides to check the chat logs, and suddenly, he sees a message on the group from the medicine master, who drops a bunch of ingredients for a simplified body tempering elixir and how to prepare the medicine. Song begins to wonder what kind of medicine they are trying to do. Then he tries to send a message to the medicine master that it is good for them to just prescribe a medicine, but as he is about to send his reply, someone else replies the medicine master on the group, and the person drops a comment on how well the medicine works. Song becomes surprised as he searches about the ingredients, and he realizes that they are just normal recipes for homemade medicines. He then tells himself that the members of the group are so delusional that they prescribe medicines, and he immediately writes the ingredients so that he would ask his cousin when he goes home the following week. Song tells himself that it would not be okay if someone dies due to the bad prescriptions. Somewhere in Huaxia, the Spirit Butterfly Island, a lady comes out of the water with a traveling bag, and she tells herself that she has to do her investigation by using the opportunity she has as her father is not around. Song wakes up and realizes that he had a bad dream. Then he tells himself that he is not going to mention the ingredients to anyone. Song sits up, and as he checks the weather, he begins to contemplate whether he should exercise or not, but he decides to play a few rounds of game before he goes to exercise. A few hours later, Song suddenly sees that he has played the game for a long, as it is already afternoon, and he checks the group chat as he tells himself that he feels better after reading the group chat. While reading, he notices that the way they are discussing the group looks real, but he tells himself that he is starting to think like them, which is why he has been having weird dreams. Song sees that they are discussing about a thunderstorm that is likely to happen in City J, and when Song checks the message very well, he asks himself if they are serious about what they are talking about, as the city they are discussing is closer to his school. Then he tells himself that he would see the thunderstorm if it happens. Song also scolds himself for believing what the men are saying on the group chat. Then he goes offline, and when he checks the weather, he realizes that the weather is clear. Then he decides to eat and go to the bookstore later. Two people stay beside a light pole in City H so that they would prepare for the cultivation they want to do. Meanwhile, Song goes to the bookstore, and he recounts how he likes reading books for free in the rental bookshop, as it gives him a different experience reading in the bookstore. After finishing a book, Song decides to take another one home, and when he goes to the counter, he gives the lady there a book to stamp, and she tells him that the book is getting due in 2 days, and he would be charged 1 yuan if he returns the book after the due date. Suddenly, the sun becomes more bright, and Song begins to wonder if they are at the peak of summer, as the sun is brighter than normal, and as Song is about to leave the store, floor, they all hear a huge lightning, which affects everyone and makes everyone bow their heads as they do not want to be struck by lightning. Song begins to wonder why the weather forecast is wrong, and he also adds that he would have to be carrying an umbrella as it would rain any time. While everyone begins to run for their lives, Song gets outside the bookstore and realizes that the lightning is coming from the city edge. As said in the group chat he read earlier that day, but he is interrupted as he sees a small boy beside him who begins to say some phrases in some shanxia he has watched. After the kid finishes, the cloud clears and the boy runs to meet his mother to tell her that he is an immortal. Then Song begins to wonder if the discussion in the group is real, but he immediately tells himself that he cannot be delusional to think that why the men are discussing in the group is true. Song then decides that he would have faith in science instead of believing any superstitions. Song messages his cousin to ask him about the medicine online, as he thinks he would be able to save the members of the group if he gets his response. Song decides to leave the group, but he tells himself that he would have to stay so that he would be able to correct the men away from their delusions. Song sees that the men are talking about what had happened earlier that day, then he thinks it is a coincidence that they predicted what would happen. Then he realizes that the female in the group is planning to pass the city he is in, but as they talk, he decides to wait in the group so as to correct their mentalities about some of the discussions they have been having on the group. In the group, they begin to ask each other who is close to a city, so that the person would go and check what is going on, but Song becomes confused at all of their discussions. Then he begins to think of what to do. Song wakes up the next day and realizes that he still has his cold and cough, but he decides to check his laptop for news and he sees a news saying that some delinquents have been taken down by someone. Then he begins to feel happy as he has never been faced by delinquents, and he tells himself that it is because he has muscles, that it why they would not dare to confront him. Song sits and begins to think about the lightning incident that happened the previous day, but he immediately goes to play games so that he would be able to take his mind off the scene. The following day, Song wakes up and checks his cousin's message, and he realizes that he has not been replied yet, but he tells him that he would put a call through to his cousin later. Song also checks the group messages and he sees that they are talking about a poison grass that the medicine master had told them he needed, but as Song decides to warn them about the poison, he realizes that one of the members is talking about the news he had seen earlier, and he thinks it is a coincidence. Song goes to take a stroll, and while he is jogging, he tells himself that he has to train his body back as he is not getting well. Meanwhile, a lady from the Butterfly Island gets to the airport and she gets attention from some men, but she tells herself that she hates big places because it is easy for her to get lost. Song continues to read the chat in the group, and he realizes that the lady from the Butterfly Island in the group tells the others that she is already at the airport and she has to go to the Ghost Lamp Temple in Luoxin Street, and he begins to think of how the name they mentioned is sounding familiar to him. Song ignores them, and he tells himself that the place the lady from the Butterfly Island is talking about cannot be the same place as his own city. The lady from the Butterfly Island stands at the airport, and she tells him on the group that she would take a taxi, and when she calls one, she tells him where she is going to, but the man tells her that he does not know the temple she is talking about. Then he tells her that he would take her to the street and she can find her way from there. She enters the taxi, and she begins to tell herself that it is the first time she would be alone in a far place, and she tells herself that it is exciting for her. Song goes to the gourmet food paradise in the city, and as he gets there, he realizes that he is in the Luoxin Street, and he begins to wonder if it is the same street that was mentioned in the group, but he tells himself that it is Kit possible. Sing decides to sit for a while in the park, and as he sits, he suddenly sees a lady pass, and he does not know that she is the lady from the Butterfly Island who is also in the group, and as she passes, his attention becomes fixed on her as he begins to look at how beautiful she is. Later, Song tells himself that he has to get some things for his roommate who has been taking care of him, but when he goes to get why he wants to buy, he sees the lady again and he overhears her asking someone for the way to the Ghost Lamp Temple, and so becomes shocked on hearing this, and he begins to wonder if she is really the lady from the Butterfly Island. As Song continues to debate when the lady is the same lady on the group or not, the lady from the Butterfly Island begins to send a voice note to the group as she tells them that all the people she has been asking does not know the temple she is talking about. Then she begins to look for where to go. She suddenly hears as Song plays her voice note, and she asks him if he is from the group. Song becomes surprised as she bumps into him to ask him if he is an elder from the group, but he does not reply her quickly as he begins to think about her age and how beautiful she is. The lady becomes excited, and she begins to question Song. Then he tells her his name and also informs her that she may be in the wrong place. Then he tells her to use her phone skip's map to know where she is going to, but she is about to check the map. Her phone gets switched off as a result of a low battery. Song gives her his own phone to try the map, but she returns it to him and tells him that his phone is also low. Song then tells her that she should follow him to his dorm so that he would help her to find the place she is going to on his laptop and also get her phone charged. The lady agrees and she follows Song, but he begins to wonder how it would be if he entered the dorm with such beauty by his side. Song gets to his dorm with the lady, and he tells himself that he is lucky it is a Sunday and the boys in the dorm are not around. He offers the lady something to drink, and she mentions a drink she thinks a cultivator should have, as she thinks Song is also a Daoist, but Song tells her that he has orange juice. Then he tells himself that she is delusional like the men in the group, and he would have to act along so that he would not hurt her feelings. Song then gets the address of the temple, and he tells her that it would take 5 hours by car. Then she tells him that they do not have much time to wait, and he proceeds to check, and he informs her that she would take a bullet train, which would only last 2 hours to get to City J. The lady begins to tell Song that it would be okay for them, so that they would be back in no time, and Song immediately tells her that she is going alone, and he would not be following her, but she immediately apologizes to him, and tells him that she has to ask politely, and when she asks, Song tells her that he is not following her, as he has a lecture the following day. She begins to ask him if he would follow her. If his lecture gets postponed, then Song goes to do something, and she sits in front of his laptop to get the details of the teacher that is going to teach the lecture Song had the next day. She gets the teacher's picture, and she closes the laptop. Then she sees the notes on the Elixir Song had written off the group chat, and she asks Song if he is also planning to do some experiments, and Song tells her that he is not doing experiments. The lady asks Song why he is not using it, and he lies to her that he could not get the ingredients, and she immediately promises him that she would send him 2 boxes of the ingredients once she is back at home, but Song does not believe her, as he tells himself that she does not know what she is saying. The lady asks Song if she can stay outside for a while, and when he gives her the permission, she goes to the front of the dorm and wears his special glasses, which makes her have the ability to see the teacher's house. Then she takes out a talisman and uses it to break his leg so that he can be hospitalized. When she is done, she smiles at herself, and she is sure that Song would be able to follow her to the temple the next day. Soft Feathers then tells Song that he should also book a train ticket for himself because his class might get cancelled, but he tells her that he would book it later. Then he suddenly gets a message that his class is being handled by another professor. Soft Feathers immediately get angry, and she tells herself that she would have to injure the second professor so that Song would be able to follow her. Later, while Song is still booking Soft Feather's ticket, he suddenly sees a message that the second professor has also been injured, and he tells himself that it is a coincidence. The following day, Song follows Soft Feather to the station, and they take the train to go and look for the Ghostland Temple. And while they are in the train, Song begins to imagine that a lot of boys come to fight with him over Soft Feather, and he beats them all, but he stops and tells himself that it is might possible, as he has only seen it in the comics they read. Song notices Soft Feathers sleeping, and as she leans on him, he leaves her alone throughout the rest of their journey. Then when the train stops, Song wakes Soft Feathers, and as she wakes up, he begins to think that she is adorable. They go to their hotel room to drop their bags and begin their search for the Ghostland Temple, and after asking for a while, they do not get positive results, but unknown to them, a lady passes beside them, and she goes to a corner to make a call. On the call, she tells the man she is talking to that there are 2 people looking for the Ghostland Temple. She adds that she notices that the lady is powerful and the man beside her is just a commoner. Then the man tells her that he would test their powers. When the man drops the call, he tells himself that he does not know that some people would still look for the temple after 60 years of discovering it. Soft Feather tells Song that they should look for the temple, as she remembered that it used to be in the Luoxin Street, and when Song asks her, she tells him that her mother had brought her when she was in the womb, and she had used her father's psychic abilities to see the world. Song begins to tell himself that Soft Feather does not know what she is talking about. Then he asks her if the elder she contacted on the group has replied to her, but she checks and sees his messages. Soft Feathers read the contents of the messages to Song, and he tells himself in disbelief that the elder, who is always online, suddenly has something to do. They both meet an old man and decide to ask where the Ghostland Temple is, and the man tells them the direction, but also adds that it has been turned into a cemetery. The old man tells them the history, but Soft Feathers tells him of the myths she had been told, and the old man tells her that she should only believe in science. Soft Feather tells Song that they should head to the cemetery, and when he asks her why they are going in the night, she tells him that it would be easy for them to find the ghost spirits. As they go, Soft Feather tells Song that he should watch and prevent any sneak attacks, but Song still does not believe all why she is saying, and when they get to a grave, she begins a formation and begins to dance. Then, Song finds it exciting, and he decides to take a picture, but his phone falls and a weird-looking plant covers it. Soft Feather continues her formations, and soon, she notices the presence of 2 ghost spirits, and she begins to use her powers to defeat and capture the spirits, but she is not able to do so fast, as the ghosts keep escaping her attacks. After using a legendary skill of the Butterfly Island, she is able to defeat the ghosts, and when she is about to seal them, she realizes they are getting away as they are moving towards Song. Song kneels to take his phone and he realizes that the plant on the floor is the poison dragon plant they were discussing on the group, and he tells himself that he has to take it so that Soft Feather would not find it and use it for their experiments. Song immediately pulls out the plant, and as the spirits were about to escape, they immediately run back and Soft Feather seals them in a bead. Soft Feather becomes amazed as she thinks Song had helped her in defeating the ghost spirits. Then she tells him that she would have to learn from him in the future. As Soft Feather seals the ghost spirits, Song watches and he begins to tell himself that he is not sure if he should believe all what he has been seeing. Soft Feathers tells Song to take one of the spirits she has sealed as a reward for helping her, but he tells her that he does not want it, and she begs him to accept it, but Song becomes scared as he thinks the spirit would get out of the bead, but he immediately accepts when Soft Feather tells him that she would be sad if he does not accept her gift. As the two leave the cemetery, a man comes out of hiding, and he begins to recount all that he has seen. He tells himself that he has to get his two spirit ghosts back as he had used it to test their abilities. Another man named Liu Jianyai calls his master to tell him of Soft Feather's progress, and he tells himself that he must not let his master know about Song as he would be told to spy on him. Song and Soft Feather go back to the dorm, and as Soft Feather begins to go the following day, she insists on having Song's mailing address, and as she leaves, Song goes back to his dorm. Soft Feather listed in the group how she was able to complete her quest with Song's help. The following day in school, Song begins to wonder why he is feeling agile. Then he asks himself if it is because of the sealed ghost bead he is wearing on his neck, and he also notices that he is assimilating more, and he begins to wonder if there are supernatural occurrences in the world. During the break, a man suddenly comes to Song's class and tells him that he has a package, and when he checks, he realizes that it is from Soft Feathers, as she had promised to send him 2 boxes of ingredients. As Song checks the boxes, he sees that it is truly the ingredients she sent. Then he tells himself that he would have to experiment the elixir later so that he would be able to know if cultivation truly exists. As Song moves the boxes into his dorm, he tells himself that he has to put everything in order so that his roommate would not think he is messing around. In few minutes, he decides to start cooking the elixir, and he chose the pot he would use, and while he tries to put all the ingredients together, he begins to calculate how he would put the ingredients in the pot. Song becomes confused at a point, and he uses his discretion to add the ingredients, and soon he realizes that the ingredients are giving him a foul smell. Then he sees that it has all gotten black in the pot. Song becomes sad as he wonders if he has failed in preparing the body-tempering elixir. Song calms down and he tells himself that he needs to continue. Then he adds more water and the rest of the ingredients. Then he sees that the concoction is not mixing together, but he increases the fire and continues to stir it. After some minutes, the mixture blows up and it begins to smell again. Then Song opens the windows to let the smell get out as he tells himself that his roommate will soon be back, and if they see him experimenting, they would conclude that he is going crazy. The mixture gets done, and when Song sees the results, he tells himself that he has to try it, and if he gets poisoned, he would be able to call someone using his phone. Song tastes the mixture and he farts. Then he decides to go out for a jog as he feels like his body is heavy and he needs to release some weight he is feeling. Song goes for a jog, and he realizes that the elixir works as his abs are toning, and as he jogs, some ladies look at him because of his body shape. Song sees his sweat and notices something sticky on his body, and he concludes that it is from the elixir he took. Song begins to wonder as he notices that the pain on his neck and shoulders are gone. Then he also realizes that his nearsightedness is better as he is able to see things clearly. On getting home, Song goes to the shower as he thinks about what to tell his roommate because his skimming has gotten clearer. While he tells himself that he would tell his roommate that he tries into cream, he suddenly realizes that the members of the 9 provinces group are all real cultivators. He begins to tell himself that he has doubted them so much until he tries the elixir be heard on the group. Song decides to message the group, and when he begins to message the group, he tells them how he had been added mistakenly to the group, and as he reveals his identity, he adds that he was able to succeed in his first attempt to make the body refining liquid elixir. All the members of the group become shocked, and they ask him to explain how he was able to do it. Then he tells them that he used his stove and cooking pot to make the elixir. One of the members gets angry as he was not able to make a headway on his first time. Then he begins to tell himself that Song was able to perform a medicinal alchemy with an electric stove and a soup pot. As Song narrates how he made the elixir, they all become more shocked as he tells them that he added water at some point. Then after, they give him advice on how to be a cultivator. Then they tell him to choose as he can either join a sect or become a loose cultivator. After weighing his options, Song tells them that he would rather be a loose cultivator as he does not want to be bonded to a sect that would affect his schooling. The members of the group welcome Song, and they tell him the instructions of being a cultivator, as he would not be able to tell people about him being a cultivator. He asks them if he can give the elixir to his parents and loved ones, and they tell him that he can give it out. After discussing the important issues, the Northern River Loose cultivator asks Song if he felt any discomfort after taking the elixir, but he tells them that he only experienced a little burn in his throat. Then the Northern Loose cultivator asks Song if he has a girlfriend. Song begins to ask himself if the questions he is being asked are relevant to their discussion. Liu Jianyai, who is also a member of the group, begins to wonder how Song would be able to generate his Kai, as he is already older than the normal age, when he is supposed to be while learning using his Kai. He also decides to support Song at any time he needs their help. Meanwhile, Song sits in front of his laptop, and while he tries to do a method the medicine master had told him about, he receives a call from his friend Tu Bo, who tells him that another of his friend Yangde has rented a house off campus, and he has been invited for a drink. Then Song asks for the address so that he would go to hang out with his friends. As Song sets out to go to his friend's house, he begins to think and tells himself that he also needs to rent an apartment so that he would be able to experiment, but he has to earn money first. Then he begins to wonder how the other elders in the group earn money. While thinking, Song suddenly sees some delinquents bullying a girl, and they all stand round her, and they look like they would hurt her. Song immediately goes to rescue the girl, and he immediately beats the boys and sends them away. After dealing with the delinquents, the girl tells him that he should have minded his business, and she walks out after that, and Song becomes shocked at her reaction, but he suddenly checks the time and realizes he is getting late to where he is going. The following day, as Song sits in class, he begins to wonder when the medicine master would visit him, as he had promised him that he would visit him. Suddenly, as Song begins to think, all the students in the classroom hear a knock on the classroom door, and they immediately hear a loud noise following the knock as the door of the classroom breaks. A man suddenly enters the class, and the man asks Song to follow him, as he is the medicine master, and while Song and the medicine master begins to talk outside, Song asks him why he is so stylish, and he explains to Song why his hair and face look stylish, as it is a result of the circumstances that led him to Song. Song becomes disappointed, and when they get to the dorm, the medicine master asks Song to take him to his medicine refinery room, but Song takes him to his kitchen. But as the two talk, Song realizes that the medicine master is not as cool as he thought of him to be. Song then gives the poisonous dragon plant Trio the medicine master, and he tells him that he has to move away from the dorm, and the medicine master also agrees that they should leave as he has to show him how he made the elixir with an electric stove and a soup pot. The medicine master then types a message into the group, and Song begins to tell himself that the medicine master is a slow typer, as he is looking for every letter of the keyboard. Then after he is done typing, the medicine master becomes excited as he successfully sends a message, and Song becomes irritated as he wonders if the medicine master knows about the voice recording option of the group chat. The medicine master sends a message to the great master profound principal of the group so that he would be able to deliver him some books. Then he takes Song, and they set out to find a suitable apartment to rent. While on the road, Song questions the medicine master, and he asks him how he is able to get money as he is a cultivator, and the medicine master tells him not to worry as he is going to teach him how to make money. The medicine master suddenly looks back, and when Song asks him why he did that, he tells Song that any time he is to look for ingredients, scavengers follows him and try to steal from him, but unknown to the two of them, a man who has been following them begins to lament on how he is unable to attack Song and collect the ghost spirit with him, but he tells himself that he does not know who the stranger is, and he would wait till when Song would be alone so that he would be able to attack him. They go to a house, and Song tries to tell the medicine master that the house is not for sale, but when he tries to tell the medicine master, he does not listen to him, and they get insulted by the owner of the house. Soon they get a house, and the medicine master immediately tells Song that he should come and show him how he had prepared his elixir. As Song tells the medicine master how he has made the elixir, the medicine master begins to note down some key points, and after Song finishes, they decide to test the elixir, and as the medicine master tastes it, he realizes that it is better, and he tells Song to help him more often. Song asks him if the books would have arrived at his dorm, then the medicine master tells him to go back to his dorm, and he also hands him a key as he tells him that he can stay in the house as well. As Song walks back to his dorm, he gets excited as he has gotten an apartment for himself. Then he suddenly sees the girl he saw the previous day. He realizes that she is surrounded by some delinquents again, but as he tries to interfere, he sees that she suddenly begins to beat up the boys, and as Song watches in amazement, he tells himself that the girl possesses a huge power, and she did not talk to him, as it was their second time meeting in a row. On getting to his room, Song realizes that his roommate Gugu has a visitor, and he eavesdrops on the conversation his roommate is having with his visitor, and he decides to stay outside for a while and go to console his roommate later. Suddenly, the visitor comes out of the room and introduces introduces himself as Zhu Jui. After that, he asks Song if he has offended anyone because he saw a man asking about him around the school the previous day. Song begins to wonder who it is, and when Yui is about to leave, he tells Song that he should be careful as the person may try to ambush him. As Yui goes away, Song finds Gugu laying in the floor, and when he tries to console him, he does but answer. And he also invites Song to go to a party, but Song tells him that he would join them soon. As Gugu leaves, the medicine master suddenly comes to the dorm, and he asks Song if he is the only one around, as the word delivery would be arriving soon. Suddenly, Song sees the flying sword in the books. Then he begins to wonder why they do not put it in an illusion, so that it would not be identified by mortals. As the sword lands in the room, the medicine master takes away the jade at the ends of the sword and opens it to reveal a USB drive, and Song becomes disappointed, as he thought there were books coming with the sword. The medicine master also informs Song that he has to mail the sword back to the owner, and Song begins to wonder how he would be able to mail such an item back. The medicine master opens the file on the laptop, and he shows Song the different kinds of skills he can lead, but suddenly, Song finds himself in an illusion, which he sees the Grandmaster showing him the basic skills, and immediately, Song finds himself in his dorm back, and when he asks the medicine master what has halted him, the medicine master explains that the basic skills are written in a way that is notable, as it can draw him into an illusion because he is still learning. The medicine master also adds that he should never reveal the skills to anyone, as it is against the rules, and all of this makes Song surprised. After going back to the rented apartment, the medicine master makes Song read all the 18 moves in the Buddhist fist technique, and after a few hours later, the medicine master tells Song that they should go and practice in an open space on the roof. And when they go to the roof, he tells Song that he has to concentrate on the skills so that he would be able to get his ki power. After a few minutes of repeating the skills, Song gets tired, and he tells the medicine master, but the medicine master gives him a few rules to follow, and soon, Stake is able to get his ki powers. On getting to the 5th level, Song becomes tired, and he tells the medicine master, who immediately gives him a few drops of the body refining elixir, and he immediately regains his strength to continue. After finishing the Buddhist fist technique, the medicine master tells Song to immediately meditate, so that he can see and know his true self. While meditating, Song suddenly falls on the floor, and when he asks the medicine master why he is weak, the medicine master tells him that he has used up all his energy, and he also tells the medic master that his true self is just like him, and was smiling at him. Then the medicine master tells him that he is a good person, and that is why his true self is smiling at him. His master then tells him that there is not much he can teach him, and he will be off, but Song tells him that he still needs to know who has been investigating him at his back, and he goes back to his room. He sees his cousin, and he asks her what she is doing in his room, and he sees that she is with the book of formulas. She gets angry at him, seeing that he is among one of the group, and she demands an explanation from him. He begins to narrate how it all happened to her, and Dea sees that he is telling the truth. She then advises him to tell his members not to eat Chinese medicine, as it would have a bad result if mixed together. He agrees and tells her that he is going for dinner, and he invites her, but she passes and tells him that she does not want to make things awkward, and she leaves. Song then remembers that there is still someone out there that is investigating him. He then goes to see Yangde, and he sees that Guy is acting all strange, and he decides to come in and see what is happening. Yangde then tells Song that the school is starting a sports festival, and his name has been mentioned to go for the 5 kilometers race, and Song becomes surprised, as it is too long for him to run. Yangde then tells him that the names have been submitted, and Song agrees to go for the event. After some time, his friends pass out, and Song sees that his alcohol tolerance has increased, and he sees that he will have to carry his friends to their beds, seeing that they have passed out. He then decides to see what is going on in the group, and he sees that they are busy and decides not to interrupt them. He falls asleep, and an assassin comes in and sees the spirit binding ice bead, and sees that the task is easier than he expected. The assassin is suddenly stopped after he tries to bring the head of Song to the altar, and he sees that he suddenly feels dizzy and decides to go back to the altar master. He begins to leave to get help from the altar master before the poison takes effect. The master begins to wait for him, and the assassin returns, and he sees that he has been poisoned, and he tries to use an antidote to cure the assassin, but he sees that it did not work, and he sees that Song is a strong person. He then sees that he cannot remain there, as he will know where to look, and he leaves immediately. Song wakes up and begins to perceive the smell of blood. He sits up, and he sees that the doors are open, and decides to go and shut them. He then sees his sword on the floor, and he sees that it must not have belonged to a thief, as a thief would not need a weapon as sharp as that, and he sees that the person must have been after his life. He begins to wonder who will want him dead, and he begins to think that the person must be linked with whoever that has been gathering information about him. He sees that the person must have gone through a lot to harm him, and he asks his senior master, and he begins to go to this house. On his way, he meets Yua, and she tells him if he wants to know who has been asking around about him, and she gives him a description of the individual. She gives him all the details he would need, and he begins to wonder if it is related to the ghost spirit. He then arrives at his master's mansion and he sees an old car, and he begins to wonder if he has a visitor. He sees a lady that kicks a huge and makes it increase in size, and she tells him to give him a hand. They introduce themselves, and she tells him that she is his master's spouse, and she is only his side pole for the meantime, and she has heard about Song from his master. His master arrives and greets him, and asks him if something happened at his end, and Song brings out the blade, and tells his master that he is correct. His master tells him that the blade belongs to someone that often kills, and it is covered with blood, gore, and aura. His master then asks him how it feels to stop being a target, and he tells him that he feels exhilarated. They begin to talk about the incident, and his master apologizes to him, saying that he has caused him trouble because of what he placed into his necklace. Song tells his master that he is grateful to have been saved by him, and he tells him that they may be after the ghost necklace on his neck. Song then tells him that he would like to know who is following him, and his master tells him that it is easy to master. His master then checks his phone and brings out the file that he can use so that he will catch the stalker and prevent his friends from getting hurt, and his master sends them to him. Song then asks about the medicine, and his master tells him that they would not be able to get a cure as it will have no effect, and he becomes rest assured. At the Butterfly Island, Soft Feather begins to look at the daily cultivator, and her dad asks her what she is looking for, and she asks if she would be able to go out, as she has seen a place she would love to go since they would be free for the next few days. Her father refuses and tells her to be done with the contract formation, as it was the deal they had, and she tells him that she will not go back on her word, and she leaves. Her father begins to watch her and begins to wonder if she has a friend outside. The following day at 9:30 a.m., Song brings breakfast for his friends, and he asks where Guy is, seeing he is not in the living room. They tell him that he is dead as a log, seeing that he spoke in his sleep throughout the night. They begin to plan to use it to blackmail him, and Go comes out and asks them if they plan to get themselves killed, seeing that he heard all they were planning. Songni asks Yangde for a favor, seeing that a friend of his is looking for where to get traditional Chinese medicine, and promises to treat him to a nice meal if he gets it done for him, and Yangde promises to help him get it done since he is good in technology. Song then goes to his medicine master to assist him, and 3 hours later, he sees that the smell is nice, and the master uses his ability to suck up all the black smoke, and Song becomes surprised. His master hands it down to them, and he becomes surprised that his master has handed it to him, and he immediately accepts it since his master is being generous, and he immediately goes to continue his cultivation. He immediately begins to practice, and he destroys the wall with his hands, and he sees that it is something people see in movies. He sees purple mist, and she begins to tell him of how she followed the trail of their master's poison, and she sees that he is in Jiangnan district in a hotel. He becomes surprised, and she asks him what he would like to do if he finds the other person, and he tells her that he will have to kill the person so that he will not pose any threat to anyone. She then asks him how he wants to do that if he has not taken a life before, and he tells her that he will make necessary preparations. Song and his friends go to play video games, and Yangde tells him that he has checked what he wanted, and there is only one shop that sells the items he is looking for, and Song thanks him, and they continue their game. Song suddenly receives a call from his cousin, and she tells him to come and help out with carrying someone, and Song immediately stands up and goes to help her. He begins to leave, and he asks his friends if they want him to get anything, and they tell him to get snacks for them, and he begins to think about the call from his cousin Yaya. He gets to the top of the building, and he sees that he can see Shasha's wedding portrait from the top of the building. He immediately uses his mental ability to search for his cousin, and he sees that she is with a man, and he notices that he has been discovered. His phone rings, and he sees that it is the man calling, and he picks the phone, and he tells Song that he has 10 minutes to come to him. Song arrives, and they begin to talk, and he asks Song if he is training in the mortal realm. They begin a fight, and Song dodges his attacks and brings out the body tempering liquid and asks him if that is what he is after, and he tells Song to hand it to him. Song tells him to come and get it since he has nothing to fear, seeing he is immortal. Song promises to give him more liquid if he lets his cousin go, and he becomes surprised and goes after Song, but Song uses the flying sword to stab him and begins to see how lucky he is, seeing he has not returned it. Song sees that the smell of blood is strong and asks him if he has any last words, but does not give him a chance to speak before cutting off his head from his body. Song begins to go through his belongings, and he sees that he is carrying a lot of liquid and medicines along with him, and he uses the corpse dissolving liquid to dissolve his body, and he sees that the effect is much. He begins to leave with his cousin, and he realizes that she has woken up, and he asks her if she feels uncomfortable in any way, and she tells him that she just feels pain at the back of her neck, and begins to wonder what she is doing in the alley. Song becomes surprised, and he tells her that she was the one that called him, and she begins to think about how everything went, and she tells him that she will be fine after a night's sleep. She tells him that he has grown, and Song sees that his spirit and body went through a revolution after killing that guy, and he tells his cousin to follow him back home. Meanwhile, the disciple of his master immediately calls his master and tells him that Song has returned unharmed, and she tells him that he has been trying to push her away and she will not give up as she will eventually get what she wants. She sees that he has done his job completely and she goes down to clear up the evidence as he will be able to do it as soon as he is stronger. Song returns back to his friends and he puts down the snacks and takes a picture of the medallion and plans to send it to the group to see if anyone knows anything about it. He sends it to the group and he begins to watch their reply. He continues to check the group and he sees that Soft Feathers are looking for him and her father begins to wonder who Song is. Song begins to take a nap and he suddenly sees that his phone is ringing and he sees that the palace master is calling to ask him about the medallion he sent to the group. Song then asks him if he knows where it is from and he begins to tell him the story about the medallion. He finishes the story and he tells him that he heard from the medicine master that he is aware of the ghost cultivator's whereabouts and he asks for Song's address so they can talk more about it. He also advises him to change his diocese name since his is bad and it's supposed to sound lyrical. Song thinks about it for a while and agrees to change his username on the chat. Song wakes up the following day and sees that everything that happened was not a dream as it was the first time he killed a man, and he sees that the altar master will be next. He suddenly gets a knock at the door and he sees that it is Sho Jung, and he asks him if it is another emergency delivery, and Jung tells him that he did his best to bring it to him as fast as possible, and Song tells him that he will like to deliver something and he would like him to deliver it as soon as possible. Song takes the box in and begins to wonder what the treasures would look like. Song opens the box and sees that it is the talisman's treasure, and he can tell it is good stuff from just a glance. He begins to remember all that was said about the talisman, and he sees that everything is ready, and he begins to think about his next move, and his friends suddenly barge in. Song asks them what they want and why they are tying him up. They then take him to the race event, and one of the students beside him begins to try to weigh him down and stop him from progressing, but he tells him to give him a try. They begin to run, and he begins to wonder how Song is able to keep up, and he tells him that he wants to see Song collapse. Song realizes that he still has some stamina left, and he begins to use his abilities to hurry him up so that he would be fast. The boy sees a demon, and he begins to run fast wondering what it is, and he begins to approach the finish line, but Song passes him and takes the victory. His friends become happy, and they begin to congratulate him, but Song also congratulates the boy, stating he is the runner-up, and he begins to vomit. Yangde then gives Song a lead, and he sees that he has found a lead. At the university dormitory, Song sees that the blade is invincible to others, and he sees that he would like to use it in a sneak attack. He also sees that the fasting pills his master gave him can be used to restore his nutrients if it finishes. He sees that if all the materials are not enough, to offer the ghost spirit as a reward, he will ask the group for help. Song then enters the bus and he sees that he has used the mental energy to seal the bead. If not, it would attract a lot of attention. Suddenly, they arrive at a location and Song sees a monk, and he notices that his mental energy is so strong, and he concludes that he is also a cultivator. Song then sees that he needs to hide his aura, and everyone in the train begins to see that they need to stay away from him. Suddenly, the train goes into a sharp bend and Song sees that it is not good and suspects that something is wrong. He immediately saves the girl that has been separated from her mother, and he promises to help her find her mom in the midst of the rubble. Song looks around, and he begins to wonder why the aftermath is so severe, and he suddenly sees the monk coming out of the rubble. The people begin to wonder what the monk is saying, and he sees that he plans on breaking the evil spirit. He immediately returns the train to how it was, and the people see that there is no longer blood on their body. He then begins to go after the spirit, and Song releases the girl to her mother. He begins to suspect if the spirit is hiding around the corner. At the front of the rail, they see that the altar master will process them into food, seeing that the monk has gotten in the way of the incident. The two men then plan to delay the monk so that Ku will have enough time to stop them, and Song notices that they are cultivators, and he decides to check it out. Meanwhile, the monk tells the spirit that he will cleanse it, and the two men see that the monk deserves 1,000 cuts, and they tell him to stop what he is doing. They see that if he continues what he is doing, Ku will be completely turned to ash. They try to attack the monk, but he immediately uses his powers to protect himself, and they begin to wonder why the ray of virtue is intense, and they see that he made the flame ghost go where he wants it to go, and they become surprised. He then tries to attack the monk, but the monk tells him that he is a fool, and he attacks him, telling him that he was struck first, and what he is doing to him is called self-defense. The monk then takes them out, and Sing sees that the train is trembling, and begins to wonder if something happened in front of the train. He sees that he wants to take a loom, but he sees that he will kiss the altar master if he misses his stop. The monk then informs the ghost general to switch to the right path, and then two men try to stop him, telling him that they are dead. The monk sees that all ghosts have been cleansed, and he cannot leave anyone. Suddenly, the altar master appears and takes out the monk, and the monk sees that the enemy has a true master, and the enemies begin to beg their master to pardon them, as the monk is so strong, and he tells them that he still has use for them, and takes them out and orders Ku to eat them up. He sees that someone has been tracking his medicine purchases, and he sees that he arrived on time to save the ghost general, and he begins to think if he should let Ku eat the monk to raise his abilities. But he notices that the monk has risen up. The monk tries to flee, seeing that he cannot battle him, and the monk tells the people to escape, but they begin to wonder what he is saying, and they see that it is so late. The master tells the monk that he cannot escape, and the people begin to wonder what is going on. The monk brings out a sword and tells the master that he has forced him into a corner, and even if he dies, he is going to show what for. He tries to attack the master, but he dodges it, and tells him that it looks delicious seeing him struggle. The ghost then attacks him, and he sees that but has increased its strength to a higher stage, and he begins to wonder if he is going to die, and Song appears. The monk begins to wonder why the negative energy has not affected him, and Song immediately introduces himself, and the master becomes surprised that he is the one that has been talking about, and Song goes to attack them. Song takes out Ku the Ghost Master, and he sees that the man is the Altar Master, and the Altar Master begins to wonder what he is looking for. Song sees that his eyes are going back and forth, and he asks him if he is looking for a way to escape, and he tells him to try and see if he has a chance of escaping the Master's blade. The Altar Master begins to beg for a chance to live, and Song tells him that he has given him a lot of time to live. The Master sees that he should not have tried to investigate Song, and he sees that he will not get out of it, and Song tells him that as long as he can survive one of his attacks, he will let him live, and the Master sees that if he does not accept the offer, he will be killed, and the Master begins to wonder if he will survive it, and the Master begins to ask him to be merciful, and Song tells him to ready himself. Song immediately uses his blade to divide the Master into two, and the monk becomes surprised and sees that it is over just like that. The Link becomes surprised, and he tells Song that he is still alive, and Song sees that it is as he predicted, and the Ghost General and the Master begin to leave. Song then uses his powers and a talisman to attack him again, and he takes out the Ghost General, and he tells Song that he is shameless, and Song tells him that Face will not put food on the table, and he tells Song that he curses him for all eternity, and he dies. Song sees that he will be dead for real, and he sees that what goes around will surely come around, and he begins to melt his corpse into ash. Song sees that it will only affect his body, and if he leaves the body, it will draw the attention of the corpse. The monk tells Song that he can handle it, and he should not bother himself. Song tells him that he will remember the favor and begins to wonder if he is a member of an organization, or maybe he has a book he can use to overcome any obstacle. The monk begins to take out the spirit in his body and cleans him, but Song discovers a suitcase and sees that it belongs to the Altar Master, and he decides to take a look. He then sees that the people in the train are waking up, and they see a body and begin to look for a safe place to hide, and Song leaves him and informs him that he trusts him and leaves things to him. Song begins to see the report about the subway incident, and he sees that the monk has been arrested, and he remembers the monk promising to help him. Then he realizes that the monk had decided to take the blame of what has happened. Song begins to feel bad as he recounts that he had killed 2 people in 2 days as a result of his carelessness. Song also remembers that the last time he used the true self-meditation scripture to steady himself, it was his willpower that kept him calm. He then begins to tell himself that the path of a cultivator, as long as there are a lot of things he must grow accustomed to. Song then tells himself that he has to give the Palace Master 7 lines talisman an update, and he immediately sends a message Yo the Master as he tells him that he has taken care of the Altar Master. But when he asks the Master if he should return the talisman, the Master tells him that he should keep them as he is giving him as a gift. As he talks with the Master of the 7 lines talisman, Song begins to feel uneasy after the Master had told him of an idea he would use of the primitives. In the group, the members begin to ask Song how he was able to defeat a 2nd-level cultivator, but he explains to them that he did not entirely know he defeated the man as he had been poisoned by the Medicine Master. While chatting with the other cultivators, Song gets lured into a trap to go and bring the true monarch White from seclusion, as he would be rewarded with Thai and blood pills. Song begins to feel uneasy, and he realizes that he has gotten himself into a trap, as all of the other elders in the group begin to admire him after accepting to do the task. Song then asks one of them if he refuses the offer, but they all keep quiet and send a smiling emoji, and Song begins to lament that he has gotten himself into trouble. As Song walks home, he receives a call from his cousin Yaya, and she begins to question him on why he went to buy some Chinese drugs, and when Song asks her how she is able to know that he has gone to get some medicines, she tells him that she beat up Yangda and asked him. She begins to question Song as she tells him to tell her if he is sick so that she would know what to do for him, and she also adds that she would like to see him later. After dropping the call, Song decides to go and give the briefcase in his hands to the Medicine Master, so that Yaya would not be suspicious of him, as he dies not even knowing the contents of the briefcase. On getting to the Medicine Man's house, he gives the briefcase to the Medicine Man, and he uses his magic powers to open the briefcase, and they suddenly see some amount of money in the briefcase, but the medicine master tells Song that the original contents of the briefcase is under the money, and when they check, they see some medicines in it. Song also sees whey and blood pills, then he tells himself that the pills would last him for a while. The medicine master confirms Song's statement, but Song tells him that he does not need to go ahead with the task of bringing the true monarch white, but the medicine master ignores him, and he also tells the master that he was joking. As Song begins to go through the medicine, he becomes amazed and tells the medicine master that he can trade the medicines for more Kai and blood pills, and the medicine master tells him that he can trade them, but he would regret it as they are all important in a ghost spirit contracting formation. After learning for the night, Song tells the medicine master that he has to meet with his cousin, and the medicine master tells him to go as they would experiment some other time. As Song meets with Yaya, she begins to drag him as he tells her that he was not the one who consumed the medicine he purchased, but she does not believe him, and she tells him that they would have to go to the hospital so that he would go through a series of tests. On getting to the hospital, Song does all the tests, and while they wait for the results, Yaya becomes scared as she is thinking of the kind of illness he has. Song tells Yaya that he is supposed to check on his teacher, who was taken to the hospital because his 2 legs broke. Then the nurse comes out and says that she knows his room number, but Yaya asks the nurse about the results of Song's tests. The doctor tells Yaya that Song is very healthy, and when they leave, Song gets some fruits as he decides to go and visit his teacher. Meanwhile, a man who is in the hospital begins to find the Sem of the Su clan, but as he feels her presence, he begins to trace her, but he notices that the presence has vanished. Then he decides to look for her room by room so that he would be able to kill her. As Song enters the room where his teacher is, he greets and introduces himself to his teacher, and he hands over the fruits to him. Suddenly, the man who had accused Song of being a scammer opens the door in the process of trying to find the young girl of the Su clan, but as the man sees Song, he yells at him for trying to scam him. Song explains to his teacher, and he tells the teacher that he has to go and return the man's money to him. As Song leaves to look for the man, he does not know that the man had held on to the ceiling so that he would not be seen by Song, and when Song leaves, he jumps down and continues to find the young girl of the Su clan. Song continues to find the man, but when he walks in the hospital, he suddenly sees the young girl of the Su clan. Song begins to talk to the girl, and she does not reply to him, but when she is about to take the stairs, he tells her that she can take the elevator, as she is already injured, but she ignores Song. Meanwhile, the man rushes to the last ward on the 5th floor, and when he thinks he has gotten the girl from the Su clan, he opens the door and realizes that there is no one in the room. But he blames his failure on Song as he tells himself that he was slowed down by Song. As the girl is about to walk on the stairs, she trips and falls on Song's hands. Song carries her and he takes her down the stairs, but as they get to the road, they witness a staged accident, and Song tells the girl to be calm as he is going to call a taxi for her. Song then goes to the scene of the supposed accident, and while he consoles the injured person, he takes the boy's wallet and runs away with it. While running, Song checks the boy following him, but he sees that the boy is getting weak, and he immediately runs faster than as the girl waits for a taxi. A taxi man drives towards her and tells her that Song had told him to come and carry her to her destination. Then the man adds that Song is a good person. The following day, Song goes to meet the medicine master, and while he sits, he begins to wonder if the scammer would look for him, so that he would be able to practice his fist technique. The medicine master comes out of the kitchen, and he gives Song some drugs as he tells him that he would be leaving soon because a lot of people would start coming to look for drugs there if he stays too long. He also adds that Song can message the group if he needs any help with his cultivation, and he should not try to figure everything out by himself. Song asks the medicine master some questions about the Daoist way, and when the medicine master asks him why he is asking such questions, he tells him that he is planning to have a girlfriend before he finishes in school. Song asks the medicine master a lot of questions, and the medicine master replies to him based on his knowledge. Then Song begins to understand some of the things he did not understand before. He also tells the medicine master how he felt bad for the Western monk that had to go to jail because of him, and when the medicine master gives him some comforting words, Song becomes safe and calm. Song goes back to his dorm, and as he gets to his bed, he begins to recount all that he had done that day, and soon he begins to fall asleep as a result of the stress he had gone through during the day. Then he begins to have a dream of a young boy taken by an old mage who trains him, and after a while, the old mage got slain because he was seen as an evil loose cultivator who meddled with resentful ghosts, thus leaving the young bee to be on his own. Song suddenly wakes up in the middle of the night, and he begins to wonder why he had such a dream. Then he tells himself that it would be because he had thought about how he had killed the Altar Master during the day. Song also tells himself that he did not have a dream, as what he saw was the memories of the Altar Master. Then he tells himself that he would tell the Medicine Master the following day. The next day, as Song is about to call the Medicine Master so that he would be able to explain all that has happened to him, but he gets interrupted as he receives a call from Jiang from the delivery service that he has a delivery. A few minutes later, Jiang shows up at Song's doorstep, and he hands his package to him. Then Song gives him a package to send for him. As Jiang leaves, he enters his car, and he makes a call telling one of his men to prepare the jet as he has to make a delivery in person. But as Jiang's car passes by a man, the talisman the man was holding begins to glow, and the man asks himself if there is something suspicious is in the car, as he thinks the descendant of the Su clan decided to use a delivery car. Song goes to a secluded building to go and practice his Buddhist fist technique. Then he continues to practice hard, but when he sees that he is getting a little bit weak, he immediately uses in one of the Kai and blood pills, and he immediately regains his energy to continue. A man who was passing by as he was looking for a place to spend the night, but he suddenly hears the fist noises coming from the building, and when he goes to check, he sees Song practicing. Song realizes that he is being watched, and soon the man enters, and he begins to beg Song to teach him some of his skills. The man continues to beg Song, but he refuses. But after much persuasion, Song decides to give the man a routine, and the man gets it in one watch. Song tries to leave, but the man begins to call him a great master, and he asks Song when he would reach enlightenment, but Song tells him to focus on the rhythm in order to get better. Song gives the man some sets of instructions to follow, and he also tells him to practice the steps every day, but the man tells him that he would practice it 30 times a day. But on seeing how determined the man is, Song encourages him and leaves him to continue practicing. As Song begins to think of how he was able to answer the man, but he suddenly sees Lady Purple Mist, and she tells him that she has come to deliver something on behalf of the Medicine Master. She adds that the Medicine Master had left because he had to attend to some things. Then she hands Song a heavy hand fan, and when Song opens the hand fan, Lady Purple Mist tells him that it is a fire-controlling magical treasure, as the Medicine Master had told him that he was going to give him, so that he would be able to master it. Song becomes fascinated, and he asks her if it is a gift for him, but she tells him that he would have to return it back to the Medicine Master. Lady Purple Mist also tells him how he would use it. Then she also tells him that he has to charge it in order to use it. And when Song protests and asks her why it does not have the normal infinity stones that a treasure should possess, Song reads the manual, and Lady Purple Mist tells him not to forget to charge it. But before she leaves, Song asks her if she knows where the Medicine Master had gone to, and she tells him that she had heard that he had gone to help a few of his Taoist friends solve some problems. Meanwhile, the Medicine Master questions some people who were on an island, and they all got their memories lost together. But as the Medicine Master questions them, he begins to wonder what could have been the cause of their memory loss, as they could have seen something they are not supposed to, but he tells himself that he would try to help them. In school, Song asks his friends if they would like to follow him to go for a driving test, but Gugu agrees to go with him, and later that day, he decides to go and test the ability of the fire-controlling magic treasure. And when he reads the instructions, he begins to press the buttons in the hand fan, but he realizes that the fan is powerful than what he had expected. After realizing how powerful the fan is, then Song suddenly notices that it is already getting late, and he begins to walk home. On his way home, Song suddenly sees the ghost of the Altar Master behind him, and he immediately brings out some talismans in his bag, as he had prepared for an attack after the dream he had about the Altar Master. Song begins to use the talisman against the ghost, but after a few attempts, he realizes that the ghost is not affected. But when he eventually uses an Immortal talisman, he is able to knock off the ghost's fangs. Then, after that attack, the ghost disappears into thin air, and Song begins to wonder if he is safe again, as he thinks the ghost should be dead. On getting home, Song sits in front of his laptop, and he begins to check what was going on in the group. But he immediately sees the Medicine Master's message to the group, as N asks all of them if there is anyone going to the mysterious island in the Eastern Sea, and when some of them tells him that they are going, he warns them to stay away, as he has a case that he is trying to solve, as two of his Taoist friends and their children had gone to the island, and they all got partial amnesia. As Song sees the message, he immediately understands that the Medicine Master is busy. Then, after talking about the mysterious island, the members of the group have a conversation, and soon they begin to insult each other, and Song begins to wonder why the elders in the group are unprofessional. After a while, Song watches, and he decides to make a joke out of their discussion, then also tells himself not to, as the true monarch Yellow Mountain is still furious from the embarrassment that he got before. Song begins to wonder who the true monarch White is, as he is respected by all and very supportive of juniors, but still ends up being feared by the elders in the group. Song decides to think about that later, as he has to get some sleep, as he has to register for his driving lessons the next day. The following day, when Song wakes up, he prepares to go to register for his driving lessons, and his roommate suddenly comes to meet him, so that they would go and register for the lesson together. Then they both head to the vehicle management branch. After getting registered for the lesson, as the two boys head out, Gugu tells Song that he is heading to Luoxin Street for a stroll, and he asks Song if he wants to go as well, and Song tells him that he also needs to get something. Song also tells Gugu that he also wants to get some things at the street, and when they get to Luoxin Street, Song suddenly sees the man that he wanted to return his money to in the hospital, and when the man also sees Song, he tells himself that he would make sure he deals with Song, and Song also tells Gugu that he wants to go and greet someone that he knows, and he would meet him later. As Gugu leaves, Song immediately begins to run towards the man so that he would attack him, but as Song moves near to the man immediately punches Song in the face, and Song begins to lose his consciousness. Gugu wakes Song up, and Song begins to wonder why the man is so powerful enough to make him unconscious with one punch. Meanwhile, Jiang is admitted in the hospital, and he begins to lament on how he was robbed of the package Song has sent him to deliver, but he tells his men that they should make sure they find the thief who robbed him. The thief who had stolen from Jiang stays in the restroom, and as he pees, the police immediately attacks him, and they accuse him for robbing a delivery man, and the thief immediately begins to tell himself that he did not know that the man was just a delivery man, as he had thought he would find the treasure he was looking for in the delivery man's package. He also tells himself that he does not know how to explain to the police that his senior had collected the treasure he looted from the delivery man, and he immediately thinks of escape from the policemen, but as he makes an attempt to, he fails, and they point their guns at him to arrest him. While on the hospital bed, Jiang is given a report that the thief that robbed him has been captured, and immediately Jiang calls Song to explain what had happened to him, and when he tells Song, he tells Jiang to take care of it. Song stays in his dorm and begins to wonder if he should tell the medicine master what had happened with the package he sent. Then, after telling the medicine master, he replies to Song and tells him that he is unlucky, as he has never encountered such a problem before. Song suddenly sees a request from a monk who is a disciple of the great master Profound Principle, and as he accepts the request, the monk delivers a file to Song which contains some skills, and when Song checks the files, he realizes that it is bulky, and he begins to tell himself that he hopes he would be able to fly after learning all the skills sent to him. Song sees that a special formation is buried within the sword as he comes crashing down, and he sees that great expectation leads to great disappointment. At the college hospital, Sima's boys bring the man he has been looking for, and he asks him if he knows him, and he tells him that he knows who Sima is. He immediately breaks free and tells him that he will be his hostage. He then tries to grab him, but Sima pushes him away and tells him that he was prepared for his coming. He then asks him where the package that he stole from him was kept, and he refuses to talk, and Sima begins to torture him. He gives Sima all the information he needs, and Sima plans on using it to get his accomplices. Song begins to have his bath, and he begins to think about his cultivation techniques, and he goes to his group to check what is happening there after bathing. Song then sees that Su's clan ran to the Jiangnan district, and he sees that everyone in the group is a powerful senior, and the more seniors he knows, the more missions he will get. He then sees that one of the seniors has added him as a friend, and he sees that he has a lot to do the following day, and he decides to sleep early again. Song remembers that he promised to take his cousin to the train station, and he begins to think he arrived early. Yana then tells him that he came early, and he asks her what time her train is for, and she tells him that it is in the afternoon. Song then decides to wander around for a bit, and she tells him that she still has a few people she needs to say goodbye to. Yana begins to ask about the patient from one of her colleagues, and she sees that no one has come to check on her, and she is told that the effects of the drugs are decreasing. Song begins to see that he is lucky to have left, so that he will not be forced to do checkups, and he sees a man that he has once seen in the hospital, and he begins to wonder what he is doing in the hospital. Sombi decides to follow him, as he plans to talk to him in a very bad way, judging from the last time they had an encounter, and he sees the room, and sees that he must not make any mistakes. Song goes close to the door, and he begins to eavesdrop on their conversation, and he sees that they are talking about the person he saw in the group, and he begins to wonder what he should do since they are going to harm Su. The man then tries to harm the girl, but Song comes in and begins to talk to him about trusting people and how he misunderstood him, despite the fact that he dropped his money the last time they saw. The man collects the money from Song, and he throws his stinking pill and sees that it would affect him, seeing he cannot control his sense of smell. He begins to wonder if the man has not reached the third stage, and he sees that it is his chance to take the girl out of the room. The man tries to stop him, but Song uses his powers to push him away, and he begins to run away with the girl. He begins to wonder where he would run to, and she tells him that she is shocked that the world still had busybodies like him. Song then sees that he is familiar with her, and he tells her that she knows how to thank people. She then begins to wonder where he is going, and he senses that the man is getting closer to them, and they continue to run out of the hospital. They both see a cab, and they tell him to hurry out of the hospital, and the taxi driver begins to think they were not given consent by their parents to be together. That is why they are fleeing. 5 minutes later, they come to a stop, and Song asks him how much he owes, but the taxi driver tells him no to pay as he wishes them good, because they are in love, and Song becomes speechless as Song watches him drive off. They arrive at her residence, and she tells him to wait as she comes back with a perfume and uses it on him. Song sees that he is going into a girl's room, and he sees that it is not good. If you made it this far, let's confuse the fake fans amongst us and comment "Rip Song." Kindly subscribe and blow this video up with your likes. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.